Hey friend, Michael McCurry here. Thank you so much for joining me once again for Bible Tract Echoes. I'm so appreciative of the fact that you would take of your time and you join me on this broadcast. Now, this broadcast today is just a little bit out of the ordinary. I am certainly not in my office. You may hear the wind rustling through the trees. You may hear birds chirping in the background. I tried to make a deal with them. If they would stop talking, my wife would fill up the bird feeders, but they didn't listen to me. I guess they don't speak English. But anyway, I'm out in my backyard, actually, if you can believe that, giving you a little glimpse behind the curtain, a little behind the scenes. But the purpose is this. It's kind of a twofold thing today. I've got to get ready for a trip. I'm hitting the Evangelist Trail. We have a very busy summer of summer camps and different things, and we're getting ready to get on the road. But before we do that, there's some preparation that is necessary. There are some things that I need to do to make sure we, my family and I, are safe as we get on the road. Now, Brother Weston, kind of give us, Weston's the cameraman today, in case you're wondering who I'm talking to. I don't have a mouse in my pocket, but give us a little pan of this RV here, if you would. Kind of show the folks that are watching on video. The folks that are on video, they're watching on video on YouTube and Facebook and whatnot, they are seeing a 36-foot big motorhome. Now this thing's about 10 or 12 years old or so, and we've been very blessed to put, I think, 16, 17, 18,000 miles on it over these past few the year or two. God's been very good to us with this thing. We've had, I would say, minimal mechanical problems, but that may be relative to most RVs. We've had a lot of mechanical problems relative to your normal car. That's because these things, at least at the level that we have them at, they're not made to go for tens of thousands of miles, but we nurse them along, and the Lord's been good to us in that way. But today, we're going to talk about this tow dolly. I'm going to check the tire pressure. And this is something I would actually normally do. I try to do every time before we take it, especially on a long journey. If I tested it 3 days ago, I'll trust that it's okay. But we haven't used a tow dolly in about a month or two. We've been off the road, or closer to home, I should say. No reason to bring the tow dolly with a car on it. And so today, I'm going to check the air pressure. Now, I've had issues not with this tow dolly, but with other tow dollies before. And let me tell you that story. I may have mentioned it briefly in the past, but this was actually right about this same time last year. Actually, I was on my way to the church I'm going to be going to in just a few days in Stowe, Ohio, or thereabouts. We hooked up the tow dolly. It wasn't this tow dolly. Again, we hooked up the tow dolly to our RV, pulled the van on it, got about 3.5 hours down the road. And have you ever had that nagging sense that something is wrong? Have you ever had that nagging thought in the back of your mind that I can't figure out what it is, but there's something just off? Well, I had that issue. You got to realize 36 foot long, and then the tow dolly adds another with a car on it. I don't know, maybe 15 feet or so. So we're about 50 feet long, trucking down the road. And a gentleman pulls up beside me as I'm going 65, 70 miles, trying to keep it within the speed limit. And he is gesticulating wildly. He is kind of screaming at me in his car, pull over, pull over. And I sit up in my seat and look out the rear view mirror. We don't have the rear view mirror. There's not one in the middle because you can't see out the back. You got to look out the sides. And all I see are sparks flying out from underneath the right side of the tow dolly. You see, if you come in here tight, Mr. Weston, those of you listening at home, you can imagine with me, this wheel, this tire, it wasn't just the tire, it was the wheel, had completely come off of the tow dolly. It was gone. I don't know how long it had been gone. My guess is that it had been less than a mile or so, because I think the gentleman noticed it very quickly. The reason I didn't notice it is because we've got multiple tons of RV, and then you have the tow dolly, the car, all of that. We weren't going uphill or anything. It's kind of difficult to notice, even though it was literally just scraping on the bottom of the tow dolly. And so one of the things I check, I'm not going to do it right now, but you check the wheel bearings, you check the tire pressures, you check all these different types of things to hopefully minimize issues like that. Now, you got to realize the Lord knew what was going on. The point of what I'm telling you is the reason I'm checking the tire pressure right now, The reason I'm checking the tire pressure is because little things are important. And you'll realize in the Christian life, little things are incredibly important. Let's see here. Let's see if it'll, there we go. Let's test it one more time here. Maybe you hear the rush of air on the radio. There we go. Right about where I needed to be. Perfect. Little things like these tire pressures can become big deals later on. We talked yesterday on the broadcast about a little snack. We talked about a little boy who was brought to Jesus by Andrew, and about how that little boy had, what did he have? 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes. And God used those things in a great way for His glory and to feed thousands of people. Now we're going to read the verse we began with yesterday, the book of Leviticus. The wind blew my pages over here. Let's see. Leviticus chapter 26 and verse number 8. And 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall put 10,000 to flight, and your enemies shall fall before you by the sword. You know, God's people, with God's might, with God's power, can do great things in spite of being of little stature, of little worth, apparently, in the world's eyes. My question for you today is, do you consider yourself worth less? Do you consider yourself worth little? That good old song, little is much when God is in it. If you go over to the book of 1 Samuel, we talked about a little snack yesterday, but here in 1 Samuel chapter number 17, it's a longer chapter. Go to verse number 50. We're not going to read the whole thing for sake of time. Verse 50, so David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him, but there was no sword in the hand of David. A little snack yesterday, a little stone today. It may seem like a little thing to be off by 5, 10, or 15 psi in a tire in this tow dolly, but it can rapidly become an issue when you have a 5,000-pound car on the tow dolly. You not living for God in the little things can rapidly become big things. Yeah, Goliath, he was a big deal in his own mind, that's for sure. He was a big man. I mean, physically speaking, he was a monster. But you realize just a little stone, a little sling took him down? Yesterday, a little snack. Today, a little stone. Look, if you would, at the book of Exodus. Turn back, if you were still in Leviticus, go to Exodus chapter number 4. Exodus chapter number 4. We're going to talk about a little stick this time. Moses answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, the Lord hath not appeared unto thee. This is God speaking to Moses from a burning bush. Verse number 2 of Exodus 4, and the Lord said unto him, what is that in thine hand? And he said, a rod. And he said, God said, cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from before it. You know that same rod, that same little stick? It was just a piece of wood. Was there anything special about it? No, but it was a sign, it was a picture to Moses that God was with him. It was such a sign, it was so scary that little stick turning into a snake, Moses hightailed it out of there. But you know that same stick, when dipped into the river, that Nile River, that river that made Egypt the powerhouse of its day, when dipped into that water turned red as unto blood because of just a little stick, if you will. Just a little stone and just a little sling took down Goliath. Yesterday, just a little snack fed thousands. My question for you is, what are you holding out on God because you just see it as a little thing? Maybe, just maybe, there's just a little bit of bitterness that you've allowed to take root and be in your life that's keeping you from forgiving others. Maybe, just maybe, it's a little bit of pride, some arrogance, just a little thing. You know, the Bible says only by pride cometh contention. My question for you today is this: are the little things causing problems for you, or are you not allowing the little things to make big impacts for God? It's amazing how the little things with this RV, this motorhome that's behind the camera, can cause massive issues. A little AC compressor. The very first trip we took with this RV, the AC compressor went out. We were on our way to West Virginia. We were 15 miles from where we were supposed to be, had driven about 8 miles, and the AC compressor went out. And we were stopped on the side of the road. Can I tell you, friend, the little things make big differences. I'm going to encourage you to take advantage of the little opportunities God has given you. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. As we conclude, let me encourage you to go to BibleTractsInc.org. If you've never ordered a sample booklet from our ministry, I'd encourage you, go to BibleTractsInc.org today, and you can get a sample booklet that tells you about our ministry, but it also comes with 4 or 5 different sample gospel tracts. Maybe, just maybe, one of the little things you need to start doing is you need to start leaving gospel tracts everywhere you go. And just like yesterday, I want to give you one more invitation. I say one more, I'll probably invite you multiple times over the next coming months. But I want to invite you to our open house at Bible Tracts Incorporated in Odell, Illinois. I'd love to see you there. We're going to have a wonderful time. The food's going to be great. The fellowship will be awesome. You'll make some new friends, I'm sure. One of the friends you're going to get to meet is a great friend and partner of our ministry, Baji Bob DeWitt. If you've never heard Bob DeWitt on the radio, we're going to have to get him back on the radio soon. He's actually spent a few weeks in Kenya, of all places, and he saw phenomenal results. We're planning a project there very soon, and he's going to tell us all about it on September 30th. Lord willing, we're going to have a wonderful time all together on September 30th of 2023. I'd love to see you there. If you need more information, you can text me at 309-316-7240. I'll give you that number one more time real slow. 309-316-7240. Thank you so very much for joining me today on Bible Tract Echoes. Don't miss tomorrow as we continue this series of little things. God bless.